and we are recording, and we're here. Noah Landau, you're the
Yep.
second guest. I'm very happy to have you on here. How are you? How are you
I'm
today?
good. I'm doing well, JC. It's a little early for me on a weekday, you know, at this point, but I'm doing good. Obviously we got a big week coming up
Yeah.
and final season, so there's a lot going on, busy times, but how are you?
I'm doing well. First of all, you said it's early for you. It is noon on the East Coast. You're on the East Coast. So noon is early. I just want to clarify that. Make sure we have that clear.
Noon is very early for me. I'm trying to switch my regimen up so I'm getting to bed at a somewhat normal hour. Want to be in bed by and trying to fall asleep at 12:30.
Okay.
That's kind of where I want to be at, and then you know, maybe not eat dinner at 11 p.m. That would be a good
You
start.
know, you and I couldn't be farther from the truth. I don't know if like the West Coast is easy. I think it is easier to fall asleep early, but I don't go to bed past like 11:30.
We're going to
Uh,
bed at like 8 p.m.
I go to bed very early
What?
nowadays. I go to bed at like 10:30, and I'd be waking up at like 6:37. I know all my friends on the East Coast are just waking up at 10, 11, going to bed, midnight or later. So it is different, but I like going to bed early. I got a head start, got a workout in before this, got my grocery shopping, filled up my car, but don't plan to leave the house for the rest of the day, work from home at noon. And I got this slot that I can fit you in, man. I'm like just so excited to do this. I'm very happy you're here.
Stuff, yeah. No, I mean, I do have an essay today on a book that it's due tomorrow on a book that I have not yet read.
Do you plan to read it?
Fortunately, no, I'm not going to read it. I'm going to use book rags, and
I love it.
it's for an architecture class that I'm past failing. So
Okay.
it's like whatever. I think I've clinched already, which is good. C's get P's. That's what we
Seas.
always like to say. So
Heck yeah, they do.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how I can put 4 pages together for that. But I
I
plan on
love
formulating some type of response later
it.
and
Mhm.
getting that submission in before 5 p.m. Tomorrow. So yeah,
Okay, 5 p.m. tomorrow. Okay, so you got a little bit of
yeah,
time.
I got a little time.
Now, speaking
Chilling.
of school, I know you don't love to talk about yourself, but you just made a huge accomplishment that I do want to highlight before we get to all the other stuff. You're one of my dear friends. I'm so proud of you. You got into Northwestern doing a master's program, and just I want you just like for like however long you want, but just tell people what you're gonna get your master's in. Like I'm just so happy for you.
Yeah, so basically it's going to be a master's of arts in sports administration, and the big part of the program that really enticed me was the specialization in sports analytics. For everybody that knows me, they know that I'm all into statistics, basically. Especially on the baseball side of things, and one day to have a baseball operations or front office position. So, law school was definitely in the mix for a little while. I know we were getting busy on the LSAT, but I think for right now the best path for me is to kind of go this way. And I get one life, so why not try to make the most of it? And this is the stuff that interests me the most. I have a passion for it, so I'm going to get after it. And,
Yeah.
whether it works out or not, it's going to get my full effort, and I'm excited to see what I can do with it. So
I'm
I,
so happy for you, man. And I knew that because like when we were studying for the LSAT, this was over the summer. I am gonna go down that law path, and the fact that you were iffy on it, and then you found this passion, found like this other route. I'm just so happy that you're doing your real passion, like that's what you want to do. Like there's different ways to get to your passion, but the fact that you found this program and you got into Northwestern, like dude, you did the damn thing. So
yeah,
I'm so proud of you and I'm happy you're on your way. That's why I said it like a week and a half ago. Like I was in the chat, just talking. I was just like, I can't imagine what the fantasy football league, what we're all going to be on in 10 years, because I think we're all going to be doing some unbelievable stuff, and you're on your way, man. So I'm so
listen, this is
happy
a
for you.
special group. This is a special group. It's an
Yeah,
honor to be part of it. There's not one person in this league that I don't think is going to be extraordinarily successful. And
sir.
it's exciting to see. It's going to be exciting to see, the league grow and everyone kind of get into their careers and just accomplish so many things. So, the Bavik Saddies group is one to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. And I just think everyone's going to be, as we get more people on here and everyone introduce themselves and people get to know everyone else, like you're going to get to know everything about them. So I think, and you're going to see very clearly that everyone has immense potential. And I love that about everyone in this league. I did want to transition to one other thing. Um, that's not fantasy football related. I asked in the chat and not many people responded. It hurt me a little bit. You weren't one of them, but I'm happy you didn't. Blessing in disguise. You can talk about it now. Your Spotify Wrapped. I'm seeing it ever on social media. I deleted Instagram, so I don't even look at it on Instagram. But I know Yuri had the Weekend and Post Malone, like the top 5 thing. So he had the Weekend, Post Malone, Drake, I think Queen. I think so. And I forgot his last one. Or Michael Jackson. Yuri, I think, had the best top 5. I think. Like it's just so every like The Weeknd, Post Malone, Drake, Queen, and Michael Jackson. I mean, if that doesn't, that's Yuri right there. I know mine was okay. I had Drake, of course, as one, Nav at two. I had Future, Pop Smoke, and then Lil Uzi at 5, which surprised me. I think I played like 3 of his songs on repeat for like a month, and that's what happened. But I wanted you, so that was mine. I wanted you because this is a surprise. You waver in your I'm sorry, did you freeze for a sec? Can you hear me?
Little bit. So I'll just go ahead and talk about the Spotify rap playlist and really it was pretty contentious within my house because my brother and I share a
Mhm.
premium account. So, it takes both of our data into consideration and from rooming with me, last year that there's one name that should be at the top of the list, Tory Lanez,
Right.
and the fact was that he was not at the top of this list, and
Okay.
it was very concerning because I listened to a whole lot of Tory Lanez, so it means that the guy that was number one, I don't think I've listened to a song of. So Jonah
Oh,
must have had him on extreme repeat.
right. Okay.
Young Blood ended up finishing number one on my Spotify
Young
rap.
Blood. Wow. Okay.
And,
Didn't
that's
handle.
it's not someone that I listen to, and I think of the people in the top 5, I think that there was only really one person on there that I listened to. So Jonah's been listening to a whole lot of music. So I'd like to keep it at that number 2 spot, which is the main man himself, Tory Lanez. So many voices could feature on his own song. We know there's whole lot of controversy going on right now with him. Uh,
Mhm.
Talks about him potentially being canceled. However, I need music from him. I just need music. He just gets me through my day.
Right.
Um, so yeah, no, I wasn't happy about that, about him not being number one on my Spotify Wrapped, but looking to change that this year and have
So
him
I
on
want
the.
to ask son, who's the other 3? Who's 3, 4, and 5?
You
Let me
know
get
what? I once I saw it's interesting. Let me pull it up real quick. Let me pull it up real quick on my phone if I could find my phone. Here's my phone. Because once I saw that Tory was not number one, because the way that it came up was it gave you 4 choices,
right.
right? It gave you 4 choices and you had to pick the one that you thought was number one.
Right.
And we were both, I was watching it on my brother's phone. He was doing it. We were watching it together because it was like a big deal for us. And he clicked Tory Lanez and it said so close. And at that point, I stood up, turned around. I think I almost ran through a wall. I think I screamed at the wall or something like that. My parents were screaming from down the hallway at me like, "What the heck are you doing? It's like 11:30 p.m. Like we're trying to sleep." I don't even know if I saw the other 3. So this is gonna be
That's
interesting.
interesting. Okay. Okay. Wow. So when you saw Tory Lanez was not your number one, you dipped.
Once I saw Tory Lanez was not number one, yeah. Jeez. Let's see
Okay.
this. Oh, the music. There we go.
Hold on. Yeah. We might get copyrighted now. I don't even know, but that's okay.
Dude. Okay.
I
Uh,
don't think YouTube is on the hunt for this video. I don't
yeah.
know if they are, but that's okay.
All right, let's see. I gotta skip through here. This is gonna be interesting to see who it was because my brother listens to some. Let's see. Geez, Youngblood, Tory Lanez, Justin Bieber, The Kid Leroy, and Machine Gun Kelly.
The Kid okay, so the Kid Leroy is interesting because he came up on my Spotify once, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Who is this?" And I couldn't do the Kid Leroy. I tried and I couldn't. Um, that's
You
so
know,
the Kid Leroy, wow, that's an
you know
interesting.
that's The Kid Leroy is interesting because he just had his new album drop and he's someone that's interesting to me because I'm kind of starting to like him a little bit. I didn't necessarily have him on. I know my brother had him on extreme repeat because that album came out a little while ago and that thing said 3 days after the album came out, Jonah played his 100th stream of the song of one of his songs, and I was like, "Yo, what the heck are we doing here?"
Wow.
So yeah, so he's really into him and he's someone that I see a lot of potential. for in the music industry, just because I think he has a nice voice, a nice vibe to him, and it's gonna be exciting to see where he goes. But Tory Lane's not being at number one just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm gonna have to do something about that this year. So,
Listen,
we'll,
like you said, Tory Lanez is controversial, but you know what? You like his music. I have mixed feelings about him. Like I do like his music, but my roommate Vanessa is as tall as he is, so it's a little sometimes it's hard to grasp, like sometimes it's hard to take him seriously.
it's okay. We can't blame him for the height. We can't blame
No,
him for
we
the height.
can.
But
We can.
we're not the tallest people in the
No,
world, but
you and I are both what, 5'8"?
5'8", maybe 5'8.5", 5'9", shoes 5'9.5" roster height. You can keep on giving me a half an inch, but
That
what's
is
it called? No, but you know what? For me, it's not so much. I mean, I know this is like a little shallow, I guess, but it's not so much about the person that he is outside of his music.
yeah. Mhm.
I like Tory Lanez because of the music that he creates, the
No.
music that he puts out, and I don't know him as a person. Obviously,
Right.
if what he did is true, then kind of messed up. Actually, really messed up. But you know, uh, I like the music that he puts out.
Yeah.
That's the only viewpoint that I have on him,
It's
and
no, I understand. It's the philosophy of separating the art from the artist. We've had now mainstream rappers, supporting the what is going to be the former president in a couple of months, but Lil Wayne, Kanye West, and I know there's many people that are still listening to Lil Wayne, Kanye West, including me, but I like them for their music. So I totally
yeah,
understand where you come from, 100%.
exactly.
So I guess with that, we can transition to the fantasy football side of things. So this is the first time. So when I did the first episode, no one knew what all the teams were or what this looks like. So this is our homepage, guys. I'm the commissioner of this. This is my baby for right now. And these are the standings. And I think Noah, you and I want to talk about this. We can talk about last week's matchups, which I will
I'd
get to
rather
in a
not,
second.
but
You'd rather not, because you and I played each other this previous week, and I had the best week. You know what? I can just go to the scoreboard and I can show the people what happened over week 12. And so this was you and I, Beezy Landeezys, Noah Landau. And I won pretty handily. I had the best week this week. I'll scroll down real quick so people can see. I had the best week this week.
yep.
And it was a great time for me. I'll go to the box score so people can see what the heck happened. I had a very phenomenal week. So I guess I'll just get started on my end. I was very happy with the Houston Texans. I was very worried that my fate would be decided on Thursday, and Duke Johnson didn't disappoint. Deshaun Watson, I think, has been unbelievable. And this is, I think, the best my team can ever do. This is really about it. Um, I like Robbie Anderson. Justin Jefferson was amazing without Adam Thielen. And, from 2-6, I was 2-6. I told myself I had to win out. And I'm on a 4-game win streak, and I've put myself in a position, as you have, to make the playoffs. So I think both you
At
and I,
one at 167.92, if that's the best you can do, listen, that's a good best right there because you're not going to lose too many matchups putting up those points.
yes,
From my end, obviously on Thursday, it was uncomfortable watching the Houston offense, being that basically anything they did on offense was going to count for you, and it was concerning seeing Watson and Duke get into the end zone and on that receiving touchdown and they put up numbers and then once we got to Sunday I knew that I'd have to do something and I have to do something quick. Gallman got me an early touchdown on Sunday, but there was a solid period I think from around 115 to 135 where I think every single highlight I saw was one of your players scoring a touchdown and it kind of was a little demoralizing there, but what I think looking at my team, there's as far as this week, nobody really showed out other than Mahomes, and Mahomes getting 31.28 points from him was big, but isn't going to do much when my number one defense comes out and loses me 5 points, and Aguilar making a debut in the lineup. I had some injuries that I was battling this week, obviously DJ not being in the lineup for Jacksonville. I know Mike Lennon's at quarterback, but still would have liked his big game potential in there, and not starting T Higgins. That decision was just a lack of confidence in their new quarterback Brendan Allen, and just wanting to see their what was going to go on with that. But yeah, my guys didn't really show out. I had a bust week from Mike Williams, who's one of the, as everybody knows, one of the most boom or bust players in fantasy football, and Waller came out 6.3. So really, nobody did their thing. I was happy with Gallman's looking like the real deal. What do you think about Gallman?
You know, I don't watch Giants games for a reason. I think that I don't use my time to watch Giants games. I know the number one person in our league, Atticus, is the only Giants fan in our league and a huge Giants fan. I don't know enough about him. All I know is he gets touchdowns and he's really good at
24
getting touchdowns.
carries, though. 24 carries for 94 yards,
Right.
3 receptions, 18.1 points. I'm reading some articles are like, listen, this guy's like RB1 and a half, maybe even RB1 at some point. And you know what? I need that. And here's why I wanted to discuss this, because there's a reason for my team to be concerned going into the future. And I know not last week, but 2 weeks ago, you guys were kind of talking about my team as one of the teams that could potentially do something big in the
Mhm.
playoffs. And there's a lot of reasons for I mean, I think that I've assembled a roster that could pull it off, but there's a lot of question marks, and the first and foremost being Alvin Kamara right now. And with Taysom Hill at quarterback, the reception just aren't there. That's half his game. And you've seen what Kamara's done the past 2 weeks. I think he put up around 10 points 2 weeks ago, 6 points this week. And over the course of the last 2 weeks, one reception for -2 yards. And that's just, he's been battling some injuries, and it's getting ugly. There's a lot of Latavius going on, and I have Latavius on my team, but where do I insert him? Do I take that risk? I mean, I don't think I can. Kamara is not someone that I can afford to take out of my lineup. Um, but Drew Brees not coming back until potentially week 15. You're talking about needing to get through a week 13 with no receptions, and then a playoff matchup, because at this
Right.
point I'm not getting a bye.
Right.
So I'd have to get through a playoff matchup with half of Kamara's game missing, and that's
Yeah.
concerning. I'm going to need other guys to step up. I've been in a search for an RB2 all season. Kalen Balaj stepped in for a couple weeks and was great. I was able to make a move with Bavick and acquire Darrell Henderson, who stepped in and was solid for a game, and able to pick up Malcolm Brown, to who I've since dropped, to sort of back him up. But
Right.
Wayne Gallman sort of stepped into that role, but they're still concerned about him. Freeman could come back at any point, and while I don't think Freeman is necessarily going to take over that number one role in New York, not that he was a bell cow of any sorts before that, but
He got touches.
he could
Yeah.
take touches away from Gallman. He could be a little touchdown vulture. So there's some reasons to be concerned for me. I'm gonna have to find wide receivers that I'm comfortable with. Aguilar's, I think, was a solid pickup. 10.4, a solid week. Not something that's gonna lose me a matchup, but certainly not something that's gonna win me a matchup
Mhm.
either. And I need DJ to get healthy and get back in there. And I got Julian Edelman sitting right there on my bench. And Julian Edelman's one of my favorite guys, even though I'm a Jet fan.
Right.
Julian Edelman really is one of my guys, and I was able to acquire him from Jason, and haven't been able to use him yet. But listen, that's a guy that, who knows, he could come back at some point for the playoffs and save me. I mean,
Right.
we don't know. So there's a lot of question marks with my team. I'm gonna need Waller, Mahomes, Diggs, and Kamara to carry me, and
Right.
I'm gonna go as far as they take me.
I'll say this much, and I want to move on to the other matchups, but I'll say this
Yeah,
much about my team. If they can just repeat what they just did, I'm worried that Will Fuller leaving might be a big deal. I don't know. I don't know which Johnson is coming back, is going to be starting this week, Duke or David. I think either one of those, whoever's starting, I will put in my lineup, foreshadowing for Blake. And Robbie Anderson's on a bye, so this team that I put out this week is going to look very similar. Beasley's going to replace Anderson at the wide receiver 2 spot. I have no idea who I'm starting at flex or RB2, so that will be a question mark for next week, which we can talk about in a little bit. But I want to move
RB2
on.
by committee.
RB2 by committee. That's what
I
it's
like
been
that
all
one
year for
too.
me, and I
Yeah.
know you can relate to that. But I will go to the next one. I will go to Attica, the number one team in our league. First of all, Attica officially clinched a bye, so and I am not begrudgingly upset. I'm actually very happy for him. Attica, congratulations.
As
You
well.
know, a lot of people in this league consider him a fraud. And we'll have him on the podcast for that. I want him to address those comments. I don't know, it's hard for me. But Honorog, so this is first against last. Honorog's officially in last place. He loses this week. He has to do the punishment.
Yep.
Um, and I don't know, like Attica, Attica played really well outside of Ezekiel Elliott. And Anurag, I don't know. Like I've never thought Anurag's team's been bad. I don't care that he's in last place. I don't think his team's bad. James Conner got COVID, so that was a huge issue that he had to deal with. But when you look at this team, like I don't think either team is bad. I think Attica simply just had a better week. And DK Metcalf is the real deal. The real deal.
And I think the big thing about this league is that there's not one team that you can really count out of it on a week to week basis because there really is so much talent and all of us are pretty good at paying close attention to the news and figuring out ways to adjust our lines to be more competitive and the fact of the matter is that there's no you know even though Attica says on a bye week right here there's
Right.
no easy W's at all.
There.
Attica is a team that has obviously had success over the course of the year and he has receivers that can torch you. The combination of Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, and Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, those guys could are all capable of having unbelievable weeks, and they do it at the same time. It's going to be a tough guy to beat. Ezekiel Elliott's obviously been a little bit of a disappointment, but that's a guy that he's going to have to rely on in the playoffs. Josh Allen's obviously a guy that can have big games. I think that RB2 spot is a little bit concerning to me. Singletary didn't kill him this week, 11.2.
Right.
But with an emergence of Zach Moss, we don't, that Buffalo backfield on a week to week basis is a little unpredictable,
Right.
especially with Josh Allen, getting his rushes also. So, I mean, he's a team that with that Steelers defense, I mean, I think they're the number one defense now. They took that after the Colts did what they just did against Derrick Henry. But
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. Yep.
the Steelers defense has been going nuts and he's a dangerous team, not someone I want to face. Unfortunately, he's someone that I'm going to have to go through this week if I want to lock myself a playoff spot. I'm not excited about the matchup. I'm rooting for him, but not this week. And
Right.
listen, I don't think he's a fraud. I'll go ahead and say that, but he's going to need to figure out that RB2 spot if he's gonna win a championship in this league. He's going to need to figure that spot out, or his three wide receivers are going to have to carry him to the finish line.
You
That's
know,
just the bottom
and
line.
and either could work. I'll say, I guess I could go here for a sec. But I was just gonna say overall, Onrog has played well. I don't think the 4 is indicative of who he was. Like he lost to Blake that week that Keenan Allen, so I can just point to that specifically. That week that Keenan Allen did the 2 for 29 and 1 touchdown. Then after he scored that touchdown, he had to
Got
leave the
hurt.
game. He got hurt on that touchdown, and I believe Onrog lost by less than 1 point this week against Blake. And I think, foreshadowing for Blake, ever since then, Blake has fallen apart. With all due respect to Blake, and I have to play him this week, and I will talk about that in a little bit. But if we go, I think Honorog's has been better than 4-8 in my opinion. I think Attica, with all due respect, 9-3, very impressive. I don't think he's a 9-3 team. So although I don't think these records tell the full story. Is what I'll leave on this.
You know,
Um,
the football gods have not been with Anurag this season.
they
It's
haven't.
definitely fair to see that, especially with the week you were talking about with the Keenan Allen injury after those two receptions and a touchdown. I think
Mhm.
the big thing for him is Russell Wilson as of recently isn't putting up those MVP type numbers. He's been turning over the ball a little bit more, and that's a guy that he's going to need if he's going to be carrying if he's going to be able to. Well, at this point, he can't make the playoffs, right?
No, he's statistically limited, and I will definitely before
Eliminated,
we
yeah, so I think that, that was if he's gonna get out of last place, and I think that, it's gonna come down to, I think he's playing against Bavik this week, and can he win that matchup, can Chase and lose, and he beats him in terms of points for, and as a way to avoid the punishment. But as Keenan Allen was obviously a great addition for him. Chase Claypool was a great pickup. There's a lot of guys. He's been overvaluing Le'Veon a little bit this year. I will call him out on that.
took him in the 3rd round. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. He was overvaluing Le'Veon for a while, and I think he started to realize in the past couple weeks, that maybe he should have pulled the trigger on something a little bit earlier. But Anurag's the guy I'm rooting for. The Swift injury obviously didn't help him, and it's unfortunate to see him
Right.
not make the playoffs for again this year. I know I've only been in the league for 2 years. He's gonna miss it again, but when you look at his roster, that's a team that you could see that team in the playoffs if you didn't know the records. Like he's got a talented team. Gio hasn't necessarily been doing his thing as a plug-in at running back,
Right.
but it's unfortunate for him. It's just the way it goes in fantasy football sometimes. But he'll be back next year.
He will be back next year,
Yeah.
and like you said, so you said a little blurb, and I'm gonna move on to the next matchup. You were in the league 2 years. This league has been in existence for 3 years. When it was 10 teams, it was the first year. Anurag came in last the first year as well, so he has a real dangerous, potential. He has dangerous potential to be last 2 out of the 3 years of this league's existence, which is unfortunate. But Anurag is simply one of the most likable and one of my favorite members of this league, and I wish him not last. I don't wish anyone last, but
Anurag's great. Anurag's
Anurag,
great. I mean, it's gonna be tough to see anybody coming last, so I'm rooting for Anurag to get out of that spot. He's one of those teams I'm rooting for on the low.
yeah.
So
So now, if we move on to this one, so speaking of, like you said, the fantasy gods, the way life goes, Jason Hodge has been officially the coldest team in fantasy football, a 4 game losing streak. The pin, okay, so he must have changed his team name this morning. Um, as everyone,
his murders go.
everyone changes their team name every week. I feel like there's not a week where everyone keeps their team name.
Yeah,
So Jason has been the coldest team right now on a 4 game losing streak. And before I stop sharing, like, and we go back to face to face, I'll show the standings and all that. But from 5-3 to 5-7, and Blake said it really smart. He said it's talent plus opportunity, I think makes a great fantasy football player and fantasy football team. I think Blake is right about that.
100%.
And I think Jason, in my opinion, if you were to put his roster on a Madden Ultimate team, I mean, look at his first 5 players on it. Like, if you said put this team on a Madden Ultimate team, put this team like this is, you could make this a video game. Like, if all the first 5 players on Jason's team, they're all on one team, that would be an unstoppable offense and unstoppable team.
I mean,
Un-
this is about as uncomfortable as a matchup as it can get. I mean, you
yeah.
take a look at Aaron Rodgers; he was able to acquire Dalvin Cook, and I'm still shocked to this day that Anurag had given him up only because we know his love for Dalvin Cook, and
Mhm.
for him to go out and get Josh Jacobs. I know Michael Thomas has been out for a little while, but hopefully, maybe his value's a little or his ceiling is a little lower with Taysom Hill at QB, but you
Mhm.
know in the playoffs, if he can get past that first round, if he can get it in, get past the first round, he can get him back. And we know the talent of DeAndre and CD Lamb was really good in the beginning of the year,
Yeah.
and now with their with Dak's injury, and they had Danucci in there for a little while, and now with Dalton, he's definitely got some options. He's got my boy Marvin, who I had taken, was a little bit of a disappointment earlier in the year. But this when you look at his receiving core, you look at his running backs, it's a team that is just destined to break out. And it's not someone that I want to face in the playoffs. Probably one of the 2 teams, if I had to pick 2 teams that I can avoid the rest of the way. Jason's team might honestly be one of them, and for the sole reason that there's a lot of breakout potential on this roster. Aaron Rodgers can go out and put up 30, no problem.
Mhm.
With his relationship with or ability to play with Devontae, and Hunter Henry's a solid tight end. He's got Gronk on his bench too. I mean, it's kind of shocking to see that he's been on a little bit of a slide, but
Mhm.
it's a team that if he gets in could make some big time noise. But all he needs to do is get in, and he can make a run at this thing. And it's a team that I'm not looking forward to facing in the playoffs if I have to, and that I'd like to avoid.
Me
Um,
me too.
but
I
I'm
I
excited to see if he can get in.
I agree with you. Like I said, like, I pull no punches. I think Jason has the most talented team. That doesn't mean it's the best team, but I think Jason has a really full of talent. And I think to make the playoffs, and I said, I hinted at it earlier, I'll show the standings for everyone, but I think all he has to do is win, and Yuri would have to lose, and he's in the playoffs. And I do not want to play Jason. Jason's a very scary team. Jason's a very talented team. I wish him the best. I'm like you said, it's been a surprise that he's on a 4 game skid. I I did want to move on to Bavik because Bavik, I don't think has, he lost that 5-7 record. I alluded it to in the first podcast. He lost off a stat correction. He won by 0.08. And then Daryl Henderson, who's no longer on his team, he Daryl Henderson was stat corrected -1 yard. So he went from 0.08 -1. So he lost by 0.02. So maybe the unluckiest loss I've ever even seen. I'm it's unbelievable that he lost like that. But Bobik also has a very good team. And I think because he put up numbers and the points for, which I'll show later, I think he's safe. Like, I don't see him coming in last, considering he has to play Anurag, who is in last right now. But Bobik's had a little bit of an unlucky season, in my opinion. But played pretty well, and I don't think he'll make the playoffs. There's a lot of 5-7 teams that could, and there's quite a few of them. But you know, Bobic's team has done this before. I think he's put up 140 plus like on 3 or 4 separate occasions. And he's famous for his defense. So for people who don't know, Bobic's defense is the thing where he usually, more often than not, has the least points against every year, and he holds teams to under 100 points. And the Bobic
And
defense
look what
came.
happened this week. I mean, this is
Mhm.
a perfect example of it. Another week, another team is holding on to under 100 points. And, I sure faced the wrath of Bobby's defense last year. He beat me twice. I think I put up like in the 80s, both of those games in the regular season. I finally got my revenge on him in the third place game, which nobody cares about. But what's it called? Bobby's team is talented. He has my first round running back, Kenyon Drake, who
Mm,
uh, who basically I feel has been on every single team in the league in this point. But yeah, I mean, it's good to see Kenyon break out. Obviously, he wasn't in his lineup for him this week, but just looking at the numbers, it's good to see that 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. You look at his wide receivers. AJ Brown obviously missed time earlier in the year, which hurt him. But you look at his lineup now. I mean, Aaron Jones, Calvin Ridley, AJ Brown, like the emergence of Curtis Samuel. He's got guys that can put up numbers too. He
mm,
also had Taysom Hill on that tight end spot last week, which was very beneficial for him. And Nick Chubb, I mean, he's got talent. He's got
mm,
talent. Again, he's a team that's 5-7, but again, it's going to be tough to get in on a points for basis, mainly because it's his defense that kind of stands out amongst the rest. And for everybody that doesn't know, our tiebreaker is points for. So
mhm.
if people have the same win loss record, it goes to points for to see where people fall in the standings. And Bavik is a team that you're just nervous, man. You're just nervous when you play him for the sole purpose of the aura of his defense. And listen, when he puts up a 145 spot like this, he's going to get his wins just
Yeah.
because of that. It's like the perfect combination, the perfect storm. So, he's got receivers that can put up numbers. Angram's been playing pretty well. So, look at that Washington defense come out, put up 17. He's got my boy Rodrigo in
He's
there.
Oh my gosh, did you see him on Twitter when he, like, was talking about I don't know what he was referencing, he was either getting drafted or getting put on the team or something, but he was, like, building a Lego set
Yep, yep.
or
I
something.
saw
Yep.
that. Building the Lego set, big Marvel fan, all that. I'm a
Look at
big
him.
Rodrigo guy.
I'm a
So
huge Rodrigo fan. Look at his I mean, come on.
he has
That's a
the most likable kicker in the league. I mean, how do you not root for that team? How do you not root for a team with Rodrigo Blankenship? So
I agree. So, best of luck to both these teams who are both 5-7, trying to win this week, and I'll go to my next matchup. So, I've explicitly stated this, that Chris is one of my favorite people in the world, and we just love Chris. I think he's universally adored in this league because of how nice, how pleasant he is, and everything. What's unpleasant is his fantasy team. The fact that he is 6-6 and better. I'll just reference it real quick. Chris is 6-6, and you catch a quick glimpse of this lineup, and I'll go right back to it in 1 second. But look at Jason's lineup, who has a worse record than Chris, and then you look at Chris's lineup, and it boggles my like, I wish nothing but the best for Chris. I love Chris, but you and I have both referenced his running back problem is so abysmal, and the fact that he's made it this far, I think is not only shocking, but it has to be impressive. I have to give him his due respect because, he's been rotating Melvin Gordon, Leonard Fournette, and JD McKissick, and he's been pulling out wins. Like, he makes it happen, and I don't know how, but this week, my God, this is the worst week, I believe, in the 2 years that it's been a 12-team PPR league. The first year this league was 10-team non-PPR. Jason owns the worst week in that year. But in the 2 years that it's been the same format, 12-team PPR, I think this is the worst week in the history of this league, and it's a huge problem.
you look at Chris's team. This week was obviously an ugly one, putting up that 60.96 points. I think Chris lost this league earlier in the year, and again he's 6-6, so he has an opportunity. But the big thing is that I think he missed out on an opportunity. He had a lot of depth at wide receiver. You take a look at Tyler Lockett, you take a look at Tyler Boyd when Burrow was still healthy, and Jamison Crowder was playing well earlier. He's got Kenny Galladay, John Brown, and he got unlucky obviously with the Saquon injury, but he had an opportunity earlier in the year to go out and make a move for a running back, and he didn't do it. And it's something that I think he regrets. He won't admit it, but I think that he does regret it. Obviously we all love JD McKissick. And JD McKissick, I know he only put up 4.7 points this week, but he has a pretty nice floor with the amount of receptions that he gets in that Washington offense. So this was an unfortunate week for him, but to rely on Leonard Fournette and Melvin Gordon as your other two running backs, it's just not a recipe for success. And wide receivers are especially important. I like wide receiver breakout potential, more than running back breakout potential. I just think there's more wide receivers that can have that, big 25 to 30 point game that can win you a matchup. But but I really think that his team needed to make a move earlier in the year, and we know that Chris is not the biggest proponent of trades. He's not that involved in the trade market. He missed an opportunity here to make a move for a running back, a sustainable running back that can come out and get him 14, 15 points a week that he can rely on. And I don't know. It's a team that obviously, and listen, he wins next week and the points for lines up, he can get in, but
Mhm,
his wide receivers are going to really need to carry him. And John Brown, is banged up right now, and
mhm,
Tyler Boyd doesn't have his QB, so we'll see what that happens. Jameson Crowder's kind of slowed down a little bit, so I don't love his chances. I don't.
mhm,
He could surprise me. He's a team that, again, as you said, is 6-6 with this roster and has been able to get it done. He's been someone
mhm.
that's been competitive in this league, but I think that that's a and listen, I've been in discussions with him. We've tried to work something out, and again, our teams didn't really see fit like eye to eye in a deal. But there's definitely teams out there um that he could have done something with, and I think that that's something that he's going to regret at the end of the season.
I agree, and I just he was the only team not to make a trade this year, and I'll reference it when I go to standings and it'll show like moves made. He didn't make a trade, not one trade this year. When everyone was making a lot of trades, especially early on in the year. So we'll see how it goes. I'm nervous for him. He's seventh on the 6-6 in the 6-6 spot. He's in seventh place. He has to win, and then probably one of us are because his points for is so terrible, especially after this week.
Yeah,
That he's probably going to need a little bit of help, but if he wins, he's in a pretty good spot. And then Bobby, I will address Bobby. I think he's honestly so he's been in the league 3 years. He's in my opinion the most consistent player. So he went 7-7 the first year. He went 7-6 the next year, and then lost his playoff game. So he went 7-7 in 2 years, including playoffs, and now he's 7-5. I think he also doesn't trade a lot, but he's made some pretty good moves. He acquired DJ Moore and Kyler Murray and only traded away Mark Andrews, so he won that trade for sure. You look at his bench, I think he will have RB2 issues. Ronald Jones, I don't know if it's consistent. Derrick Henry is ridiculous. You watch him play, and he's an artist, I think, at the running back position. I
I,
think it's
I think
him.
that
No,
I think
what were
as far as RB2 is concerned, just the unpredictability of Mixon. Remember, he's got Mixon down there on his bench, and
Mhm.
that's a guy that he can slot into that RB2 spot when he's healthy. We don't know what's going on with him. He may still out be for a couple more weeks. There were some people that were saying they might not see him for the rest of the season, which I don't believe to be true. But you know, this team I mean, when you have Derrick Henry on your team, you can win a matchup any day of the week. The combination of him when Kyler's on, and again, DJ Moore's had a decent year. AJ Green's a little concerning. I know earlier in the year he had a lot of faith in AJ Green, T.Y. Hilton, those guys, and didn't really come to fruition.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah, I
think
mean, he's got dangerous pieces. I mean, Ronald Jones is playing well. I mean, when you have Derrick Henry, and then if you can get Mixon back, he's got running backs that can carry him. Brandon Cooks has kind of stepped in and as a solid wide receiver, kind of flex role for him, and Thielen being hurt, he's going to come back. So he's got a scary team, and he's a team that I expect to see in the playoffs. I believe he's in third place right now.
yeah,
Uh,
he is. He's in a
and
really healthy 3rd place. 7
yeah,
and 5 is the 3rd best record in the league, and he's really good. I think Kyler Murray and Derrick Henry as a 1-2 punch really good. And he'll, in his lineup next week, Adam Thielen will come back off the COVID list. So he'll probably replace AJ Green. His tight end situation is a, a bit concerning. Like you said, AJ Green and T.Y. Hilton, I think those guys are unfortunately past their prime. Still very talented football players, but I think they're a little bit over
yeah.
the hill, as they say.
Listen, he can have you. I mean, you insert Thielen and Mixon, a healthy Thielen and Mixon into this lineup. I mean, it's a really dangerous lineup, especially with the big game potential of Kyler Murray. And
It is.
it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see
Yeah.
what happens, and he's gonna be in. Trust me, he's gonna be in
So
the playoffs.
yeah, Bobby's gonna be in the playoffs for the 2nd year in a row, and he's gonna have an 500 or above. And, Bobby's a very consistent and very talented fantasy football player. So I wish nothing but the best. I love Chris to death, so I'm a little biased. I want him to squeak in. I want him to make something happen, but his team, I think his team's the least talented. That's why I pointed to Jason
Yeah.
earlier, because Jason, in my opinion, has the most talented roster. And I think Chris has literally the least talented. I mean, you know what? He's making it happen. He's obviously not going to change anything. And I'm excited. I hope Chris does make it. I really do. I think that just,
No, I hope he does make it, but not at the expense of me.
of
Uh,
course,
selfish as that is, but it's fantasy football, so with
it is.
you know, so so yeah, I mean, one more thing on Bobby Love, also the tight end situation is a little scary, especially with Drew Brees not coming back until I think week 15, maybe they were talking about. So Jared Cook there, maybe he could find someone on the waiver wire to fill in. It looks like he doesn't have any tight ends on his bench. Again, when you have the running backs that he does, with Mixon being healthy and when Kyler goes off, you can afford to have a little bit of a lack of production at tight end. So it doesn't concern me too much if he can get the rest of his team healthy, Adam Thielen, Joe Mixon, if he can get those guys back. But it's something to watch for, and Bobby Love's going to be a scary team going into the playoffs. Derrick Henry just put up 38.5 points against what was the number one defense in football, uh,
Hmm.
stats wise, and he's a force to be reckoned with. He really is. If he can figure out tight end, he might be untouchable.
I agree. I agree. And then we move on to the next one. So this matchup right here, two also very people that I love in this league, Chasen and Blake. Blake, I do want to address for a second. So he started out 4-1 and is now 5-7. This is probably the team. Blake is a very talented fantasy football player, and I think consistently he's, in my opinion, been one of the best drafters. Um, and to see him go from 4-1 to 5-7, his last 3 weeks, he's put up, like, I believe 105 or less, or I believe, like, 110 or less. He struggled immensely, and it showed again, and, this was a surprise to see Blake at 5-7. I didn't expect this from him, and, it showed, but I think his running backs have been, Miles Sanders had a great start to the year and has
Mhm.
really dwindled. After that injury, he hasn't been the same, and that Philly offense, as we saw on Monday Night Football, has been absolutely atrocious. Like, it's honestly, like, it's really, really bad. And I play Blake this week, and I expect to see basically outside of the Browns defense, I expect to see this lineup against Blake. Um, and I'm not gonna lie, given my roster, given my team, I'm not too nervous to play him. I think his receivers are unbelievable. They've been incredibly consistent all year. And when Devontae Adams was hurt earlier in the year, Blake was 4-1. Blake was
Yeah.
doing great without his best player, and he's had Devontae Adams throughout this 1-6 stretch that he's been on. And it's been hard for him, but I think he has a great bench too. Like I don't know. I don't know why he struggled as much as he's had, but he is. And Chasen went off, and Antonio Gibson had a Thanksgiving performance reminiscent of Randy Moss, and I think he took off from there and never looked back. And Blake is struggling and is now in ninth place. Chasen is also out of last place. Um, Honorog has sole position of that, and I like I said, there's no bad team. I think Blake's running backs are, not that good. I don't think Matt Ryan is that good, and I think Noah Fant, I believe after he had a touchdown the first 2 weeks, and then ever since then, he hasn't been that good, and, the numbers show that
Yeah,
right here,
you
so
can discount this week though. We know what happened in Denver. Him catching the one reception, that the
yeah.
one completion that Kendall Hinton had. So you can rule out any struggles that Denver receivers had this week. Same thing with Jerry Judy, Tim Patrick, all those guys around the league.
Mhm.
So I'm not too concerned about Noah Fant, but you look at his receivers. I mean, they're studs. They're flat out studs. And Blake's a team where it doesn't matter how his team looks after a draft. Typically, he has a good draft, but it doesn't matter how his team looks after a draft. He's going to make moves to make himself competitive. And Blake is one of the guys in the league that I enjoy engaging in trade talks with. I'm sure that people can attest to this, but I probably engage in the most amount of trade talks in this league. As far I just love to do my due diligence and just kind of check in to see where my options are and talk to everybody. But Blake is someone I always enjoy talking to, and he's got, I mean, with Amari Cooper, Allen Robinson, and Devontae Adams. I mean, those are guys that can put up numbers any day of the week. Fact of the matter is, they all put up numbers this week, and the rest of his team didn't step up. So listen, those guys are going to be there. They're consistent. They're the core of his team. He's got some depth on his bench and Hollywood Brown and
Mhm.
Devontae Parker. So I mean, his wide receivers are there. He's going to need some other guys to step up. He's going to need Matt Ryan to be a guy that can put up close to 20 points a week, and he's going to need these running backs to. He's going to need Hunt to find the end zone a little bit. Chubb's back, so it's taken away from his value, but yeah, he's going to need someone else to step up because just the wide receivers going off haven't cut it, as we can see over this stretch of the last 5 games or so. But he's a team, he's a team that I'm always nervous to play against just
Um,
because of the caliber of fantasy football player he is.
no, he's such a talented fantasy football player, and I have to take care of him this week. This is not like if there was a week 13 opponent that I didn't want, it was Blake, because Blake can just go off anytime. So, but I also want to give Chasen. I want to give Chasen his props. I don't want
Yeah,
to just overshadow Chasen. He's made some trades. He was in last place for a little bit, but he's climbing up. He's 11th as shown. That's showing how competitive this league is. And I'll show the standings before I stop sharing the screen. But he um he has a good team, and I think he has a good bench. Julio's been hurt. Julio's been weird to navigate all year because when he's on the field, you just see how amazing he is, but he's not on the field enough. But Dave Montgomery as a depth piece, he plays Matt in the last week, which I'll show Matt in a second.
yeah.
And he's been regardless, if he goes 6-7 or 5-8, he's also a very talented fantasy football player. And I also give Chasen his props when it's due, and they're definitely due this week. He had a great week this week.
Sure. I mean, Robert Woods scared me to death a couple weeks ago when he seemed to be targeted on every single play by Jared Goff when I was playing against him when it came down to that Monday night game. But listen, he's a team that it's been unfortunate to see him, in that second to last spot, and again, it just shows how competitive this league is because you look at his roster. I mean, it's a good team. It really is a good team. Obviously with the Colts running back situation, Hines has been getting a little more of a role over the past couple of weeks with
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor being on the COVID list and Jordan Wilkins not being too involved in the passing game and I mean, I guess Chris Godwin you can get a little nervous about being that the Buccaneers just have so many weapons. But he has guys that can put up numbers. He made the deal to acquire Mike Davis. Didn't go nuts this week, but helped him, put up a decent number to help him win a matchup. And it's unfortunate to see where he is in the standings, but he's again a team that has a solid team, a team that's not a comfortable matchup at all, and
Yeah.
he'll be back next year. I don't know if I think there's a small chance that he can make it, based on
Y-
points for, but not a
Yeah.
likely one. So yeah, again, we'll see what happens with that. But listen, they put up a solid number 146 this week, got the win against Blake, and we'll see what happens with it.
And last but not least, honestly, two I think of the more funny, charismatic. It says why money, so I'll put it there. That I think gives a little hint to who I'm dealing with. Yuri Orlov, Matt Edelman. Yuri was also, I believe, 2-5 at one point and has come roaring back. Matt Edelman, he's the team. I said in our first ever podcast episode, that you and Matt were the teams I feared the most, and I stand by that. Yuri's come roaring back, man. And first of all, Matt has my favorite team name, the Hebrew Hammer. I think that's hilarious. That's a very
Hebrew,
cool name. I love that.
mm,
And when I scroll and see this lineup, and then I can highlight Matt's bench. I mean, McCaffrey might or might not play because the Panthers record's not good. But if he can have a running back of McCaffrey and Eckler, I mean, I think that's just 20 points off receptions alone easily. The wide receiver two spot's gonna be an issue now because of
yeah,
Will Fuller, but he has depth. He has Gurley, like he has depth everywhere. He has tight end depth. He's really really good team. I don't like playing against Matt Elman. Don't. I hope I don't ever have to see him in the playoffs. And then Yuri came roaring back, and I want to give a little bit of appreciation to Young Wei Koo. He's putting up RB1 numbers the last like 4 weeks. You
wait,
know,
who
Young Wei Koo has been unbelievable, unbelievable. 12,
RB1,
12, 13,
RB1 young
20.
like
He literally like 13, 20. He had that 1 week of two, and then 12, 12, 13. Yuri
those are
picked up an RB2 in his kicker. So a
yeah,
little bit of appreciation for Young Wei Koo. Matt is second, so he still has to win to get a bye week. But if he won, no doubt he'd have a bye week. Bobby is chasing him. So for that second bye spot.
Yep.
And then Yuri is a simple win and get in. Yuri plays Bobby Love, and I'll show that in a little bit. Yuri played Bobby, but Yuri did his thing and did what he had to do to win. And both of these teams are very, very good and very, very talented on fantasy
I mean, that Tyreek Hill number just pops off the page. I
football.
mean, 57.9 points.
Yeah.
He almost beat Chris's team. I mean, with one player. I mean, I'm sorry. It sounds like I'm hating on Chris. I love Chris, but like it just shows you like Tyreek Hill. Jeez.
Yeah. Uh, and I remember, like, Yuri talked to me one time about, like, trading Tyreek Hill when I saw that, and I said, "You better not touch him because he gets a touchdown every game. Outside of that Buffalo game, he gets a touchdown, whether rushing or receiving in every game. He is that great." And I told Yuri, "You don't touch Tyreek Hill," and it paid dividends, and he needed
Yep.
it, especially this week because Matt Edelman had a great day. Austin
Exactly.
Eckler coming back is the real deal. Austin Eckler is an interesting character. He's Twitch stream. He's on Twitch a lot, streaming, and he actually has a really big fan base, and he details his rehab and how he's doing, and he'll go on Twitter and he'll be like, for those that have kept me on their fantasy teams, get ready, and
Yeah.
he.
Yeah. No, and
It's
I like as a fantasy player, I like to see when players do that. I'd acknowledge it, even if their individual teams might not necessarily like it. But as a fantasy football player, obviously, it's cool to see. As far as Yuri, I have to mention this. Yuri is probably the most uncomfortable person to trade with, and the reason why that is the case is because I always feel like he's working on twice the amount of information that I have. Everyone in this league knows Yuri is the source. Especially if he approaches me. If he approaches me for a deal, I get really skeptical about it, and I don't think to this point I've been able to pull off a deal with Yuri, and that's probably gonna stay the same for a little while. That probably isn't changing, and the reason why is just because it's just he's got all the inside info, man. He picks up guys before we get news on them, and geez, it's just uncomfortable just due to the knowledge that he has of the league and what's going on around it, and I feel like he has a direct line to all 32 NFL franchises, and
you
it's
know Of course, and I
depressing.
have I have the anecdote. It was almost like a famous trade within our league. I traded for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yuri had Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then this was like week 6. We pull off a trade, week 6 or week 7, something like that. And then 24 hours later, the Chiefs signed Le'Veon Bell, which wasn't looking back as impactful as
Yeah,
I
but I
thought
mean,
it was going to
still,
be. But
it's
still, like what?
like, geez. I mean,
Yeah,
it's props to him though. I just don't think I'm gonna make a move with him ever, just because, just because of the fact that it's just like I don't know what's gonna happen. Um, Matt
yeah,
Edelman was a team that from the beginning of the season, probably the team I've been most concerned about.
mhm,
As far as being a team that can win a championship, and his team can win a championship. You see the players that he has. You see the running backs. I mean, when you have McCaffrey, when you have what's it called, Austin Eckler, when you have Todd Gurley, when you have um, you know, and the handcuff for Todd Gurley, Brian Hill, who can fill in there. I mean, he's got pieces here. He's got pieces here, and Lamar obviously was hurt this week, so he's got that QB upgrade over Teddy. But the Fuller injury is concerning. He's going to need someone to step into that. Oh, I forgot about Mostert also. I mean, they just keep on coming out of everywhere. I mean, he's got RB1s for days, and the wide receiver 2 spot I think is the only concern right now for him. And let's look at his options. I mean, Debo obviously just had a great week, 11 for 133. Jerry Judy, you can throw that zero out the window because we know what happened. And he's got my boy Lavisca, who made an appearance on my roster for a little bit earlier this year. I
yeah,
love Lavisca, but I don't know if he's the solution there. So maybe he can find someone in waivers. Maybe Debo Samuel's the answer. I think that wide receiver 2 position is really the only concern that I have about his roster. He's going to get his running backs healthy. I mean, he's got too many options. I bet he wishes that there was an extra flex spot in here so he can just throw all of his RB1s in. But
yeah,
it's Terry McLaurin. I mean, he's got a solid wide receiver 1, and Robert Tunyon did his thing, and this is a team that if I could pick one team that I don't want to face, it would be Matt Edelman.
yeah.
At this point, just with the star power of his running backs. Especially if McCaffrey gets back and is healthy for playoff time or for the semis, because I think that Matt's team is good enough, even without a McCaffrey, to get through that first round if he has to play in that first round matchup.
Exactly.
As of
Even
right
if,
now, it
yeah,
wouldn't, which is huge for him. And
exactly. Yeah.
listen, Mostert's a stud. Being a 49ers fan, that
Mhm.
Raheem is. I mean, and he doesn't need too many touches to do it. I mean, he's just a big play guy. So he's got guys that can put up numbers, and 150 is somewhat commonplace for him. I feel like, especially when his team is at full strength. So that's a team that I'm going to be concerned about. But he's a conflict starter. Let me say that too. He likes to start conflict in the
Oh,
chat. I'll give him that. It's fun though. It's fun though.
it's
He's
fun. I think
I
I
like him.
think
I like Matt Edelman. He's great, but he's a fun guy to beat also.
Yeah, no, he is. He's an incendiary guy. He's one that talks a lot and doesn't care who's listening, and I feel
Yeah,
like Blake's the
he's
same
great. He's
way,
great.
so it's like there's so many contrasting personalities in this league. Chris hasn't said one thing to anybody in the 3 years he's been in this league, and Blake will make up for that, talk for 4 people. Matt will do the same thing, but I've given Matt his due respect throughout this entire fantasy season.
Oh,
He's
definitely,
great.
definitely. And he's put together a great roster after, struggling last year. And, he had the first pick and he made good use of it, even though there was an injury. I mean, it hasn't been his first pick. Uh, his first pick hasn't been the reason why he's 8-4 right now.
Mhm,
McCaffrey's been out for pretty much the whole year, and
mhm.
he's been able to put up W after W, and he built this roster really well, and it's a team that's going to compete for a championship. That's the bottom line. It's a team I don't want to face. If I have to face them, hopefully it's in a championship. But it's a really good team. It really is.
Absolutely. And I'm just gonna go to the standings, and then after this, I want to almost like wrap it up a little bit and get
Of
your
course.
opinion on a couple things. But this is yeah, I'll go season stats. So this is the proper. So this is the standings. And the records are up here. So this is how tight this league is. So this is why I love this league so much because we have 4 through 11 within a game of each other. And it's amazing what can happen. So like the only thing that's really certain is Attica has a bye. Like that's honestly one of the only certain things. Other than that, Matt could lose a bye potentially. And then we have like 7-5. Bobby's a pretty big shoe in for the playoffs, but literally, I mean, all these teams can make the playoffs. Like all of them. Like I think like Blake could do something. Bovic could do something. Like it's just amazing. And you know, that's how tight this league is. You look at the points for like there's a lot of math that have to be involved, and we could
Yeah.
and we both have stuff to do, and I'm gonna wrap the podcast up relatively soon. But you and I could spend another hour just doing the math on like what would be required for who to make the playoffs. But if I just rank the points for you and it's funny. I was down to you 66 points prior to our matchup, and I beat you by 66.14. And
Embarrassing.
that's and so it's funny that while you and I have to take care of our matchups and that's the obvious priority, we're also playing each other this week in a sense because I could win this week and go down if you win and outscore me. Like I could be
No,
seven
yeah,
and six.
yeah, that's
You could
true. That is true. I really think though, and you're playing
um,
against Blake
play
next week. So
play finals.
the fact of the matter is that we seem to be like somewhat comfortably the top two teams in terms of scoring in this league as of right now. And my concern going into this last week of the season isn't necessarily on the seeding, but rather solidifying a playoff spot in general. So in a sense, while I might be competing with you for a seed, I'd appreciate if you can kind of keep Blake at 5 wins. That
Yeah,
would be
I'm gonna try my best. I'm really gonna try my best, obviously, and I'm gonna, like I said, on the record, I'm not too scared about Blake's teams outside his receivers. I think there are serious weak points with his team, so I'm not too worried. But like if you
one
just
of
look
those
at the
running backs.
math,
One of the wide receivers are going to be there. If one of those running backs, Sanders or Hunt, steps up for him, then that's a
then
tough
then
match.
it then it's nerve wracking, But like you look at the points, like Jason, Blake, or I'm sorry, Jason, Matt, who has his playoff spot, he'll be fine regardless. But Yuri and Blake are all within 8 points of each other, and there can be a lot of math there. Like, what if Blake wins, and Yuri could like if Yuri loses, who's what I'm saying? Like, there's so many scenarios. But no, I just want to show people the standings, the points for. I really hope I'm not one of those situations where I'm top 3 in points and miss the playoffs. I missed the playoffs last year and put up the second most points in the league. I really hope I don't have to deal with that. This is the 3rd year in a row. This is the 3rd year of the league, and the 3rd year in a row I have to win just to get in. And the first 2 times I have failed. I have been one of the least clutch fantasy football players in this league, and
We don't talk about BC Johnson.
we don't talk about
Don't do
you
it.
don't I Ola BC
Talk
Johnson.
about BC Johnson.
He's the worst. So I think other than that, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I want to ask you your opinion. So let me go back to the gallery format, which was a lot better. Yeah, this is a lot better.
Mhm.
So I wanted to end it on this. If you had to pick your 6 teams to make the playoffs, like who do you think is good? Like who do you think is it going to be the 6 that are up there right now, or
That's
do
a
you
good
see
question.
any
That's a good
adjustments?
question. Obviously, there's going to have to be more research done into, matchups, who's playing who and everything, and the actual, you know, science of it, if you want to say. But
Right.
obviously, you have. I'd expect your two buys to be obviously Attica having one of them. I'd expect Matt Edelman to get the job done this week and get
Mhm.
that second buy. And it's interesting because he's down in points to Bobby Love, so Bobby Love could easily, a win for Bobby Love, a loss for Matt Edelman, and
Mhm.
those can flip flop.
Right.
But I think you end up seeing Attica and Matt Edelman get the two buys.
Mhm.
Um, Bobby Love will be there. I would expect both you and I to make it. So the top five that
Mhm.
are there right now, and a big reason, not just because you and I are on the on the
Yeah.
podcast right now, but the fact of the matter is that we're pretty comfortable in terms of points for like. Listen, my team. If I go out and have a week like I did last week, like then I could really make things interesting and not for the better for my team. But I think we're in a solid position in terms of tiebreaker. I think that it's the last spot that can get really interesting. I think that's the one where uh where it's I mean and Chris is gonna have to hope for some other teams to lose because his
Yeah.
points for isn't there right now.
Right.
But who's
Right.
Jason playing this week? Do we know who Jason's playing?
Jason is playing, yours truly, Chris. So Jason
Jason's
is
playing Chris.
yeah. So that's the thing. Like Jason, when we talked about how talented his team was, he literally just has to win, and Yuri would have to lose. And I think, and assuming he out like he's only up on Yuri by 7 points, so that would be
And
unfortunate.
Yuri's
Like
playing him. And Yuri's
yeah,
playing him.
and Yuri is playing. Who is Yuri playing? Hold on, let me make sure I have this correct. Yuri is playing Bobby Love. So that
Interesting.
also, yeah, really interesting.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and say, for the purposes of this podcast, my five playoff teams. You have Attica, Edelman, Bobby Love, Joshua, myself, and then you have Jason. I guess the last spot I think is his wide
So
receivers are too talented right there.
awesome.
I'm gonna say, and again, that last spot is up for grabs. There's a lot of things that can happen, but I'm gonna go out and say that Jason finds a way to get that last spot. And
You know what?
it's interesting to see that both Jason and Blake might not be in it. Um,
Yeah, that was a
Blake's
surprise.
got a shot too, though. If he can find if Blake's playing, and what's Blake's matchup?
Yours truly, the
Blake's
commission.
you.
Yeah,
Oh, sure. Oh, so this
and
is really interesting. I think he can
yeah,
get out against,
but
and
what
that's the thing. He's got a tough matchup this week.
not only that, thank you. Not only that, but he's also down 54 points to me. So even if he beats
Yeah,
me, for him to
yeah,
jump over me and like he'd have to have one hell of a
yeah.
week. And of
But
course,
it wouldn't be over you. What I'm talking about is for that last spot. Let's say Chris loses, Yuri loses, and then you have Jason and Blake Judge that both win. Like
like that's one
Jason is only up by 8 on
8.
Blake Judge. So I
Exactly.
think that's an interesting scenario. I'm gonna have to pass over those other two 6-win teams, Yuri and Chris. I'm gonna have to say Jason
Okay.
gets finds a way to get that last spot, and once he gets that last spot, that's a dangerous matchup for whoever the third place team ends up being because
Mhm. He's
geez,
the
really
James
all these.
is so
I mean,
talented.
there's not a good matchup to have in the playoffs this year. Last year, you
But
can argue that you take your chances with Bobic's defense, but
Bobak beat Jason in the first round
yeah,
last year, and
exactly.
Jason was
I
sick.
think that
Jason was sick.
exactly, and that was one that maybe you take your chances on last year, but this year I don't know if there's a matchup
So
that
you say
that
Jason makes it. You know what?
I'm gonna say Jason gets that last spot. I wouldn't count out Blake Judge to do something crazy on the last day. He's just too good at this. Bobic, I think points four. It's not helping him chasing even lower than that. So that's gonna be tough. Um, and then I think that Bobby Love can get the job done against Yuri. Although you can never count on Yuri in
You,
this thing. You really can't.
that's
But
the
yeah,
thing. It's
for
so
the
hard.
purpose of the podcast, Jason Hodge, I say gets that last spot.
So it's funny how this worked out. So if you looked at the ESPN original projections, that are the 6 teams that are in there, besides Chris was projected, he's tied, but it was me, you, Matt, Bobby, um, Chris, and then Attica. So it's only Chris and Yuri who are tied, but ESPN projected most of the playoff teams. Interestingly
Shout
enough,
out
as
to
of right
ESPN.
now. Shout out
And again,
ESPN.
no, there could be craziness that goes on. One of us could end up falling out if there's some if Yuri and Chris both get the job done and there's some other things that happen. But
The only thing, so I'm gonna announce my 16s right now, and they're actually the same. I agree with you. It's Attica, Matt, Bobby, me, you, and Jason. I think Jason does squeak it in. I love Chris to death. I want him to make it, but I don't think he will. And Yuri, he might. I don't know. I think Bobby loves a very talented team, but this is the
maybe
only
not
thing.
enough for Bobby Love. I mean,
This is the only thing that would make Jason literally sick, is if he wins, he'd be 6-7. Yuri loses, he's also 6-7, but Yuri outscores Jason by 8. He's down 7. So if he outscores Jason by 8, Jason wouldn't make it. I don't know
also,
what else would happen. Like,
yeah, yeah, that's why there's so much craziness that's
there's
going to go
so
on.
much
We're all going to
crazy.
be locked on to not just our matchups on Sunday, but really everything that's going on around the league. And
Yeah,
it's kind of a coin toss at this point because there's a lot of things that could happen for each team to have a possibility. I mean, who knows? Craziness might happen, and Jason could get to the last spot. Like there's like who knows? So but yeah, I think that Jason's team ends up, with the talent that he has. I mean, he's got Dalvin in there, he's got Michael Thomas, he's got DeAndre. Like, I mean, how does that team not get in? And once they get in, could make some noise.
could make a lot of noise. So Jason, I hope we don't jinx you because we both agree you're gonna make it
Yeah,
and do some crazy stuff. So we think you got it. So Noah, on that, first of all, this was great. This was actually twice as long as it was with Underdog. So I don't know if this is the format, hour long or half an hour. I don't know.
we can do an
I
hour long. We
we could
talked
do
about
it.
some of this
We could
stuff.
do,
And
yeah,
we kind of hit everything on the head. And
exactly. And we also were able to like show and screen share, so hopefully
yeah,
that
yeah,
made the experience better. Like I said, this is all an experiment, this podcast, and
yeah.
I was just really happy to have you. And so now that I have you, I have a lot more members of the league to have on. So you won't be on for quite a while. So is there anything you want to say, anything you want to leave off of before you turn the podcast off?
Oh man, that's good. First and foremost, I want to thank you for allowing me to be on this podcast and spend the last hour talking about what's going to be a crazy final week of fantasy football. A few people I want to shout out. I want to shout out my family. Mom, dad. Thank you for everything that you've done for me. I want to shout out my brother, Jonah, who's just Jonah, but he also stole Tory Lane's number one from me. So you know what, Jonah, that's a little. But
Mm,
I want to shout out my girlfriend Alex also.
we're
She's the
still
best.
love Alex. I
And
talked to her. Love.
yeah, yeah. And I also want to shout out. Who do I want to shout out? I'm gonna give DJ Chark a shout out because he's gonna really be the key for my team, and I'm gonna need him to get healthy and put up some wide receiver two numbers.
Amazing. Okay,
Yeah,
no, those are great shouts. You know what? I like this shout out portion. I'm gonna shout out everyone in the league, of course. And you want to thank me, but if you also want to, give someone their due, we gotta thank Anurag. Even though last place, he was the first podcast. Even though he's in last place right now, he's the one who really was the catalyst, the accelerator to make this happen. And funny, he motivated me to buy the domain name wildcatdefense.com, which
yeah,
is, Wildcat Defense, the name
yeah.
of this podcast. It's not the name of our league, so I feel like we should name the league Wildcat Defense. We'll see. But I might start uploading these to the website since I actually have the domain name and have the
Yeah.
rights to it.
No,
So
this is good. I mean, we got to get that Instagram page going. We got to
we
get
got
we got
there's
to
there's a lot to do. It's one
come
step
on.
at
This
a
is,
time.
we'll make
But
a new Instagram, a nice new Wildcat defense
Instagram,
Instagram page. I mean, this is
like,
gonna be good stuff. This is gonna be big, and it's still early on right now. We're figuring everything out, but this is an unbelievable idea. You and Anurag did a great job last week. I didn't know how I was gonna follow him up. We'll see how it turns out, but
no,
just thank you, thank everybody in this league for allowing me to be in the league. It's a great group of people, and excited to compete with you guys for years down the road. So
exactly. No, I want to thank everyone, Anurag, especially want to thank you a lot. Want to thank everybody. Now I'll leave on this note. As you know, I basically have not cut my hair this year, and I'm gonna, I wear a hat because it gets in my face. I'm not even embarrassed about my hair necessarily. It gets in my face with everything. When I eat, when I do anything, my hair gets in my face. So I was just gonna say, I think I'm getting a haircut next week. So I don't know if there's gonna be another podcast episode where I cut my hair, but I'll show everyone. This is it. This is everything. This is all this hair right here is gonna go off once and for all.
oh yeah,
This is what it looks like
all the
right now, and it'll get back to normal soon. But this is everything, man. This is
all the lettuce. I love it.
all, All the lettuce. So I guess on that note, of all notes, I guess on that note, thank you so much for being on here. Thanks for everyone watching. We love you. We appreciate you. And Noah, I will see you soon. And the next guest, I don't know who's gonna be. I kind of just been picking randomly, but you will have a wonderful guest soon from our league, and can't wait to have him on here soon. So Noah on that.
Thank you.